Yo guys, what's up? In this tutorial we will be making our player move for the first time with some easy code. So let's get right into it. Let's open the player controller we made in the previous tutorial by double clicking on it. And let's look at our script. So we have the debug.log here, the hello world, which didn't really do anything. So let's delete this one because we won't need it. So let's just delete it. What we will then do is we will make our first variable. Now do after me. We will make a public. So public. Okay. Public float. And we will call it horizontal input. And the semicolon. Don't forget that one. So this time we will not be using the void start. This time we will be using the void updates. So the update is called once per frame. So what does that mean? That means every frame. So let's say you have a computer that can run 60 frames per second. That means 60 times per second. All that is inside of these two columns will be run. So that's where we will be writing today. So what we will write now is the following. Horizontal input is equal to, and we will make it equal to input dot get axis, and then we will say horizontal. Alright, don't worry guys, I will explain everything. And the semicolon. Alright, so now let's look at our code. Now, what is this? A variable. Right here, wait. So what is this? A variable right here. What a variable is you have like three sorts of variables. You have the float variable, which will be a number. Like you can say 1.2, 1.5, 2.3. Those are all float values. You can also have a public int or a public integer. Let's say 1, and then let's set it equal to 1. So what a public integer is, it can only be a whole number. So you cannot say public int 1 is equal to 1.2 or 1.3. No, that's not what an int does. An int can only store whole numbers. And then yeah, there is some other there is some other variables, but we will not be using them today. So let's delete the integer. What you need to understand is that a variable is just something you can store data in, which you will see later. So what do we have here, down here in the update? We have horizontal input is equal to input.getAxis horizontal. Now, let's not worry about this part of the code right now. What we will look at is horizontal input is equal to. So as you can see right here, public float horizontal input, and then we just put a semicolon. Well, like I said before, a float is always 1.2, 5.3, but we didn't even give it a number. Like we could say is equal to 2.3, and that would work. But what we will do now is we will do the is equal to on another line of code here. So we will do it in the void update. So basically what we do here is we say the horizontal input float variable, because that's what it is equal to input.getAxis. Alright, and now what is this? This is actually just a Unity system thing. It's Unity has its own input system, and so what we say is we call the input system. So by writing input, we say, hey input system, hey, what's up? And then we do dot, and then we do get axis. So we ask the input to get an axis, but we need to give it an axis because there's the horizontal axis, there's the vertical axis, and then there's the up and down axis. So we say, hey input, hey Unity input system, give me the horizontal axis. Okay. So let's look at what it does. Let's press play. And as you can see, nothing really happens. I am pressing the arrow keys, I am pressing my A and D key. Let's look at the player here. Horizontal input is equal to 0. Now this is 0 because I am not pressing anything right now. But look what happens when I press my right arrow key. It turns to 1. And if I release the key, it goes back to 0. And if I press the left key, it's -1. So this is what we just did with this 2 lines of code. Also, make sure you have the public in here, because you can also make it private. But let's see what happens when I put it on private. Let's play. And as you can see right here, you cannot see the horizontal input anymore here in the player control script. So make sure you have it public if you want to see if it's working. But for now we will set it to private, but because we already know it's working. Alright, so now we want to make our player move with what we have here. So let's do transform. No, not transparency. Let's do transform dot dot translate, and then let's put the columns, the semicolon, and inside here we will say vector3 dot, and we want it to move to the right, and then we will do it times, so we'll do it times our horizontal input, and we will do it times our speed. So let's say the speed of the player will be 10 for now. All right, we save it, Control S, or just click the button here. So let's see what we did here. We called the transform, which is this here on the right up, the transform of the player. And then we said translate. Now what does translate do? You can hover over it with your mouse and you can see moves the transform in the direction and distance of translation. Right? So it will move our transform here in the direction here to the right by a speed of this. That's what it will do. Now don't worry about the vector3 thing, I will explain it in another video, but let's look at the result for now. Alright. So now when I press my right arrow key, oh, and the player goes flying off, and I press the left arrow key and there is again. So what we can see right now is the player is very fast. 10 is way too fast. So let's go back to our script and let's make this like 2. Maybe 2 is good. And it's way better. But now one thing that I will say is we have to do it times another thing, and we will do it times time dot delta time. So time dot delta time is actually something really useful that you should always use when you're moving your player. This is the time between every frame. So this allows you your game to run equally on every PC. So if you have like a PC with 300 FPS and a PC with 60 FPS, the player will always move at the same time. Alright, so this should work perfectly. Now one more thing is this 2. We have seen something like a 2 before, that's a whole number. So we can make this a private integer, because an integer is a whole number, and let's make it speed, and then let's set it equal to 2. we can delete 2, and we can just write speed. Boom. And this speed will just be a 2 because we define it here. And don't forget the semicolon. Okay, let's test the game. You always have to make sure you test your game. And as we can see, the player is very slow now. Why is that? Well, because we added the time delta time. So let's make it a public. Let's make the speed public. So we can adjust it while we are in game. So you can see there's a speed value here. And when we press play, you can play test. And one thing that is very cool about the playtest is that when you adjust the speed value, like let's say we swipe to the right and we put it on 30, yeah, somewhere around 30, and we move the player. All right, this is a good speed, you would think. Then we go out of the play mode by pressing the button again. And as you can see, the speed value changed back to 2. So that's something really cool. Everything you do while in the play mode will just revert. So let's find something good, like 15 maybe. 15 is really good. So let's stop playing and let's put 15 here. Save by pressing Ctrl S. And that is it for today. So here's the code once again. Make sure you have everything right. Don't forget the semicolons. If you have questions about the code, please ask them in the comments. I will be sure to look into it. And again, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye, guys.